Hello, Checkmk Conference. Oh, it's an amazing view from up here. And a great pleasure and a great honor for me to talk to this year's Checkmk Conference about how IT monitoring and IT documentation can support each other in a proper way. What you can expect in the next 15 minutes. First, I will give you some background information about me and the company who sent me here. Then we will talk about CMDB and i-doit. We will talk about the process between i-doit and Checkmk. And we will have a look at the i-doit add-on Checkmk 2. Okay, so let's start. I'm Robert Friesleben. I'm employed as developer and service consultant at the SAD Systemhaus Dresden GmbH with focus on Checkmk and i-doit. The SAD was founded more than 30 years ago in Dresden. As you probably hear, I am coming from Dresden too. With 170 employees in about 6 locations, we are serving about 650 customers. Over the years, the SAD qualified as an i-doit development partner and Checkmk Gold partner. So we offer a solution called SM Appliance, which combines i-doit and Checkmk, some further tools combined with a graphical administration interface together in a virtual appliance. And also related to these partnerships, we had the great opportunity last year to take over the development of the i-doit add-on Checkmk 2, originally developed by Synetics, the company behind i-doit. So, please have a look at this question and try to answer it for yourself, if you could answer it right away for your situation. If it's quite difficult for you, then you should probably use a CMDB. But what is a CMDB? First, some dry theory. It's so dry I have to read it. Configuration Management Database, CMDB, is a database to store information about hardware and software and the relationships between. CMDB is a basic component of ITIL's framework's configuration management process, period. What does it look like in the practice? From my experience, I can tell you there is a huge variation. It starts with a crowd of folders with purchase and warranty contracts combined with some historical grown Excel sheets wrote by the trainee, split it over the whole company. Nobody knows where, nobody knows how up to date they are. But on the other side, there are companies who are using a very good maintained and up to date centralized software solution. And of course, we all want the second solution, don't we? So to come there, we need an appropriate software. And this is where i-doit comes into play. i-doit is an IT management software to manage your IT infrastructure and even more. So if you, for instance, plan to manage your air fleets, your airplane fleet from your company, you can do it without any customization in i-doit. So let's have a look at some features that i-doit brings with us. First, the asset management. This is the core feature. In i-doit, you can manage assets and the relationship between these assets. So what does this mean? Asset, what does mean relationship? For instance, you can think of an asset as a server, a virtual server, a mobile device, a rack, a patch panel, a cable, a room, something like that. And the relationship between them means you can see what application is installed on what client. You can see which version of this application is installed on which client. You can see how the clients are connected together via which panel on the panels, and via which IP addresses we are connected. The second feature is the customizability. i-doit is very customizable. If you need another category, go for it, create it. If you need additional data, no problem, create it. If you need additional functionalities, no problem, create it via add-ons. The third feature is user management. So you can synchronize user data from, for instance, your Active Directory into i-doit and link this information to assets. For instance, your email address or your phone number. So everyone sees who is responsible for a certain object. And the fourth interesting feature is the IP address management. So you don't have to bother with conflicting IP addresses or overlapping IP ranges anymore. These are the four features which are important in Checkmk context. There are many more features. I just can tell you three more. For instance, the document management, the cost management, and the reports and analytics. So you know what CMDB is, and you know what i-doit is. I certainly must not tell you anything about Checkmk and IT monitoring, so we can start into the process. First, I wrote 4 use cases for you, which I will fulfill in the next scenario. First, maintaining the static data of your IT infrastructure in i-doit. Second, monitoring the hosts in Checkmk. Third, automated creation of Checkmk hosts with the static data from i-doit. And fourth, enhance the data in i-doit with the data you collected with Checkmk. So how does it work? On the first side, we have i-doit. As I already said, i-doit is the mother of all static data. This means all the data which defines your IT landscape should be stored and maintained in i-doit. On the other side, we have Checkmk. Checkmk, you all know. Checkmk is the mother of all live data, of all volatile data, data like how many RAM you use, etc. Between these two parts, there's the Checkmk add-on. As a side note for this scenario, I assume that your IT infrastructure is already synchronized between IT monitoring and IT documentation. This could be easily handled also via Checkmk too, but this would be another player field. If you are interested in this, you can ask me after the talk. So the first step is we take data from i-doit and we create automatically hosts in Checkmk. This means, depending on the configuration of an add-on, you can create the host, you can approve, and you can auto-discover the services. After a while, you can use the data you gathered with a Checkmk agent to enrich the CMDB information in i-doit, so you avoid manual maintenance of this data. What can this data be? Mostly of the data come from the hardware and software inventory plugin, so you can gather data like further IP addresses, CPU count and kind, RAM size. You can get software assignment, software packages from your host, and all this data can come back into i-doit and will be stored. Along to this, you can also show the status of the services, but this information will only be showed, not stored in i-doit. If we have this bidirectional connection between i-doit and Checkmk, we can start to frequently automate the synchronization between these two components, or do it by a manual update. The automating could be happen via cron jobs, and the manual input could be triggered via the web interface of i-doit or via the command line interface of a command i-doit checkmk. If we have all this is it. Not more, not less. Of course, we have to do a lot of work in configuration and in some brain into how I synchronize data and when I synchronize data and what I synchronize. But this is a good foundation for successful IT service management. So, next point, let's have a look at some of the key features of a Checkmk add-on. They can be grouped into 4 groups. The first group I would call sync. Syncs the basic meta information which are needed in both systems, which could be the agent types, contact groups, Vato folders, sites, and tags. These are needed in both systems. So if I want to add a new host in Checkmk in i-doit, I can configure in which site and in which folder he will be created in Checkmk. The second group is called fetch and match. Fetch lists all objects in i-doit and all hosts in Checkmk which are available for synchronization. Match then shows us how object in i-doit would be synchronized with what object, what host in Checkmk. This can be configured via many properties, for instance, the host name, the IP address, the alias, or one or more of these. The next group is push and pull. These are the really workers of this add-on. Push configures the Checkmk host based on the data from i-doit. And pull, on the other side, import information about the host from Checkmk into i-doit. These are very powerful commands, so you have to be care. And as already Stanley says, with much power comes much responsibility. So have a good attention what you update here and use always proper filters. The last group is self-explaining. It's the delete. Here you can delete hosts from Checkmk. Why I can't delete objects in i-doit? Because we say i-doit is the mother of all static data, and i-doit decides, or we decide in i-doit which hosts will be archived or deleted. How does it look like? Here you see a typical screenshot of i-doit. With the add-on come 2 attribute groups, Checkmk host and tags, where all the Checkmk specific data are stored. For instance, which kind of agent connection. Here you can decide if you want to have an agent or an SNMP connection, which site the host will monitored, and in which Vato folder the host will be created. The data imported from Checkmk will be sorted into these other categories. For instance, the host address will go here. Something like form factor of a case will start here. We could store a lot of more information here. From this drop-down menu, you can trigger the actions I explained. Last but not least, I will have a short look at the roadmap. Currently, about 100 licensed users using this add-on. Last November, Synetics released the version 1.8.1. This was the first version we contributed code for. We delivered a patch which brought the Checkmk 2.1 compatibility, as some of you may remember, the format of an inventory tree changed in Werk 12389 12389, and we delivered the patch for it. After that, we had the opportunity to take over the whole development from Synetics. I really would like to say the current release 1.8.2, but as it always is, a little bug stopped us in the test phase belonging to the incompatibility between PHP 7.4 and PHP 8. But we fixed it, and I hope we will release it in the next week. This will come with the Checkmk 2.2 compatibility. So here we say goodbye Web API, hello REST API, which totally surprisingly which was cut out in Checkmk 2.2. No, it wasn't surprisingly. Okay. Along with this compatibility, there are a lot of bug fixes. The next feature release we plan is 1.9 with extended import filter functions. What does it mean? Actually, you can't just say, I want to import applications of an host or I don't want. If you think about that, an average Linux system contains about 300 packages. You would always import 300 packages. So our plan is to customize this so you can match via regular expressions. So you just import, for instance, packages belonging to Microsoft Office. A last feature release is planned for this year, where we plan to enable the configuration of an add-on which is up to date made in JSON files, and we want to do it in the web interface of i-doit. Besides this feature releases, we plan, of course, some patch releases. We plan to continue bug fixing. We plan some performance optimizations and the fast adaptation to new i-doit and Checkmk versions if there are any changes. And of course, we need your ideas. We need your ideas. What do you want to see in this add-on? So don't hesitate to contact me here on the conference or later per email to tell me your experiences, if you already tested it or if you have it in production. Thank you for listening. Yeah.
Thanks for taking over the development of it. It's good to see that it's progressing again, that we have now support for Checkmk 2.1 already and 2.2 soon. We have some questions, and two of them circle around the same topic. Yeah.
Okay.
What if you have conflicting data in the monitoring and in the CMDB? Let's take an example. The CMDB says this server should have 3 SSDs. Checkmk says there's only 1 SSD in there. What happens then?
When you import the data with i-doit Checkmk pull the data in, i-doit will be overridden.
So it overrides i-doit data,
Yep.
but only for like attributes within i-doit. Like not like the host stays there, but the attributes can be overwritten. Yes. Yeah. And Ingo had a question regarding that. If you override stuff, yeah, because from his opinion, live monitoring data should not override the stuff in the CMDB. Is there something like manual acknowledgements or manual approval options?
Not at the moment, but it's a good feature request. So you could have a try run before, so you could see perhaps in a kind of diff what information would be overridden and what not.
By the way, did you have that, that the data in the CMDB was outdated versus the data in the monitoring? Is that something which happens quite often, or is that rather rare use case?
It depends how you maintain your data. If you rely on the automated import from Checkmk, and so you won't have this conflict.
And what are typical use cases where you solve a real-life problem? So Ahmad asks, like, now I have this integration, where did it solve a real problem in the world? Do you have some examples for that?
Yes, of course. It solves the problem that you have to maintain the data. So you use the data from your Checkmk software inventory or hardware inventory to get it into i-doit, so you have to do it manually. This is without errors. This makes the life easier for the IT documentator.
Yeah. So it saves a lot of time.
It saves a lot of time, yeah.
Okay, so is i-doit, is it available as a free version? Is there only the 30-day trial? How is that working if you want to try it out?
It's available as an open source edition, but normally you pay if an object-based license starting with, I think, 3,000 objects, but you have also the possibility to have a try for 30 days.
And from Andreas, does the current version support implicit host tags, or does it only support explicit tags?
Explicit tags at the moment, and no labels, unfortunately. But this is also on the roadmap.
And is the Checkmk interface available in the open source edition? The
yes.
Checkmk 2 integration or add-on?
No, you have to pay for the add-on. It's closed source, so you have to pay for the add-on.
Okay, so you pay for the add-on, but does the add-on work with the open source, the community version of i-doit?
It's a use case I never had before. I have to redirect it to the salespersons at i-doit. I don't think so, as here.
Okay, that was it all.
Not.
Maybe there's a question from the audience as well. No, then. Robert, thanks very much.
Thank you.